Hello, everyone. My name is Herman Young. I'm the Chief Solution Architect of One Pacific. And today I'm excited to present to you NetSuite 2021 Release 1. One of the things I would like to talk about today is the MRP enhancement. As you know, NetSuite has, just to give you a bit of history, NetSuite started off with a demand planning module that is time phased. Just last year, they rolled out a MRP functionality that's very powerful. And in 2021.1, NetSuite has some additional new enhancements that I think is going to be very beneficial as well. So one of them is the ability to flag items for MPS or MRP processing. So if you look at your item master in the future, you'll see an option to flag it as time phase or MRP or MPS. And the value of this is that in the future, you can be able to distinguish items that are critical to your company and that are good for uh, procurement, for example. And you can distinguish this from items, regular items that you need to plan, but they are more for regular procurement, for example. I believe this is going to be a good foundation for future NetSuite enhancements that need to take into account rough cut capacity planning, which I know NetSuite has a plan to introduce in future release. In addition, NetSuite MRP enhancement will include a safe search on planning data. So in the future, when you run a safe search, you can run a safe search on your planning engine alerts, for example, your planning rule groups, and your planning results. In addition, you can choose to schedule your repository refresh to happen on a periodic basis, for example, during non working hours. And NetSuite will also include support for REST web services and CSV import of various planning data parameters as well. So another feature of improvement in 2021.1 is the planning workbench enhancements. I told you just now that NetSuite has a MPS and MPS and MRP tagging for an item. So in your workbench, you can choose to filter it by MPS items, MRP items, or both, and you can have a time phase view to see your item in a date horizontal date basis. I know in the future NetSuite plans to also include periodic buckets as well, monthly buckets or quarterly buckets. But the fact that you can see a time phase view of your planning results is a pretty good introduction, a pretty good feature to have in this 2021.1 too. In addition, you can do auto approve of orders. So, for example, um, orders that are generated, change orders that are generated, you can choose to have them auto approve and even batch approve as well. So it can be workflow driven. So I think that's pretty flexible now. Um, you can on your planning workbench do an item search. So that means that you can filter your item in the workbench. So you, for example, you can choose a particular item, and then the planning workbench will only show you data for that item. In addition, in the list of supply in your planning workbench, blanket purchase orders will also be included. So that's also going to be a pretty great enhancement. So the value and benefits of this is you get more flexibility in how items are viewed in the workbench. You'll be able to view planning data in grid or sequential views to better understand the impact of your planning decisions. Late demand can be highlighted. That is part of the conditional formatting update enhancement of 2021.1. You can streamline your approvals to changes and new orders to expedite processing. So another feature of 2021.1, I think that deserves mention is the supply chain control tower enhancements. So one thing you'll notice is that now blanket purchase order schedules and inbound shipment information can be viewed in your supply chain control tower. Not just purchase orders, but blanket purchase orders as well. And having inbound shipments gives you a better accuracy on the dates of availability of your various materials. The auto number simulations with appropriate company prefixes is also an important enhancement, because what this means is that you can see which transactions are actually simulated transactions. In addition, you can set some vendor performance calculation preferences. So, for example, you could say that in your vendor performance calculation, you want the system to exclude the first five orders from the performance calculation. And the reason for this could be, for example, you might feel that the first five supplier transactions could be skewed to be better, because usually when you establish a new contract with a supplier, the initial first five transactions, for example, could be especially good. So you might want to exclude that from your performance calculation. Another thing about 2021.1 is the use of a mobile manufacturing app. So I think this is important because most of the mobile app right now for work orders is in the form of a WMS mobile app from NetSuite. And while that is good, the mobile app doesn't support work in process and routing. So this new app actually has this support, which I think is going to be great. And you can use the same configuration uh, for WMS and manufacturing activities as well. This is going to give you a lot of flexibility in shop floor reporting and consistency in personnel training. So I just think that having this feature is pretty important for shop floor. Previously, the only way to have this feature was to procure this as part of advanced manufacturing, but now having this as a standalone is just great. So with that, thanks a lot, and thanks for listening.